Rob,
Yes,
you there?
I'm here.
All right. All right, good. I've been looking forward to this live for a couple weeks. Rob Dube, good friend, CEO, co-CEO of imageOne, Managed Print Services, and the author of Do Nothing, which is an amazing book. You do silent retreats and all that other amazing stuff. You're not only a leader, but I'm going to call you a guru in slowing down your mind. Your book, Do Nothing, your silent retreats. I really wanted to start there today because I think in the COVID era that we are in right now, I think people are really looking for ways to figure it out, understand it. And I think that starts with an inner awareness and just kind of slowing down our minds and our brains. We've talked about this. I'm a big fan of meditation. And so kind of like, let's start with the author, Rob Dube of Do Nothing. How should people be kind of getting through this? And how do they find peace and silence?
Mm, it's a great question.
We only ask great questions.
You do ask great questions.
Right.
I know that about you. I think it's so different for each person. We all have our unique things that we're thinking about and dealing with. And let me start maybe by talking a little bit about what meditation, how it might be useful for some. So first, I always like to share that it isn't a time where you will clear your mind and get away from it all. Actually, it'll probably for most come, charging to the forefront because we sit down and we slow down, and that's when all of our surface emotions and those that are deeper come up and greet us. And some of them we like and some of them we don't, but they're all there to serve us. So there's the first thing to think about is whatever emotions that you're feeling at any given time throughout your day, and especially in these sorts of circumstances, is just welcoming them without judgment and knowing that they really are there to serve you. And so where we can find ourselves frustrated sometimes is when we try to sort of push the ones we don't like away. Like we want them to go away, want to smush them. And actually by welcoming them, knowing that they're here to serve us, it's sort of freeing actually. And just being aware of how you're feeling in this given moment, and it's perfectly okay.
Yeah, I want to comment on that for a second. I read, did you ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Such a great book. And in it, one of the things he talks about, which I think it was that book, I'm almost positive it was, I thought it was one of the most brilliant things I ever heard, which was set time to worry. Like literally like structure worry time.
Yeah, that's good.
And the reason I thought it was so good, and I think it connects with meditation, is because if you literally, and I'm a big fan when I'm talking to people about being a student of your calendar and time blocking, and if you literally time block and say, you know what, I'm going to worry from like 6:45 a.m. to 7 a.m. and you give yourself that space, then I think you almost create the structure to do what you're saying, which is welcoming it in. Yeah. And then you can shut it down, and then throughout the day, set it off till tomorrow. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's great. It evoked a memory for me of somebody that I really appreciate in this world by the name of Jack Kornfield. He's one of the main people that brought meditation here to our country many years ago, and super wise person. But he talks about sometimes when you sit down to try to do something like that, it's like really hard actually.
Yeah.
like you sit down to worry and all of a sudden you can't worry. Like the worry isn't coming. And so in that regard, while I think it's a great thing to try and it might work for most, another way is to just allow the worry to be, and don't try to solve everything, and don't try to again, push it away or smush it down or anything. And just know that these are normal emotions that we're all feeling, and embrace them and appreciate them, because they're here to serve us, mentally and physically in some way, just the same way all the emotions that we like are, which is love, especially now these times. Many of us are spending more time with people that we, are very close with, our families and whatnot. And so, we like those emotions usually.
Yeah, those emotions are good. Let me ask you this though, because I think a lot of people who may be listening, and I've had you on the podcast, you're an amazing guest. I always get great feedback. But I think a lot of people think, I do need to start meditating, or I do need to take executive time, or I do need to take some silence time. But it's hard to kind of just even get started with some level of consistency. Can you talk a little bit about, like, it doesn't always have to be, at least for me, when I meditate, I do transcendental meditation, but some days I wake up and I don't feel like doing it, or I'm rushed, and I'll just take 5 deep breaths. Like, can you just talk about how to get started, and what consistency looks like, and how we can be forgiving to ourselves if it doesn't look the same every single day?
Yeah. Well, first, anything that you do in life, like if you're a high performing salesperson, you sort of have a certain discipline, a certain rhythm
Right.
that's helped you be really successful. Same with if you're in a leadership position. You're not just like floundering around, going with the flow all day, and you're just really awesome. I mean, I'm sure there's some that may have that sort of way of being, but for most, there's some level of discipline. And I always like to point to the most successful athletes or musicians, and we all know how they've gotten to where they are. And quite simply stated, but not simply done, is they put in the time and the effort and the discipline. The basketball players shooting free throws or 3-pointers well into the evening while all the other players are off hanging out and doing whatever they're doing, and the musician is laboring over every last note. The pianist has blisters on his or her fingers because they're just perfecting it. And so when the big game's on the line, the free throw goes down, no problem. They don't even need to think about it when they walk up to the line, no matter how many tens of thousands of people are rooting against them.
Right.
And the same thing for the pianist. They step on stage, the spotlight's on, no problem. So it's the same with a meditation discipline, and that is that you put in the time, and it shows up when there's the COVID crisis.
Right.
That's the biggest of big games for many of us at this point.
Yeah.
And so that's just something that people can sort of use as a data point. But to your point about, some days, yeah, of course, we're human. Sometimes things don't work out exactly the way we planned, and don't be hard on yourself about that. When you're 80% doing something well, my good friend and I believe Gino Wickman, always shares 80% is usually good enough. And so, 8 out of 10 times you're spot on. You're doing a great job. We can't be perfect. So
that's great. That's great advice. That's great advice. Can you walk everybody, you've been generous enough to offer, and I have a meditation section on my website. You've offered a few. I mean, you have a few on there. It's great. Can you just kind of give people a tool, maybe a quick meditation? Because I think there's so much stress going on right now. I think there's stress that we don't even know is stress, right? Because we're just kind of living and just trying to kind of get through the day. So maybe if you can give an example of what a meditation would look like, that for a beginner starter, to kind of get it moving.
Yeah. As far as the actual setup of a meditation, or just like how do you get yourself going on a daily?
Do a Rob Dube, 30-second,
okay,
walk through meditation.
Sure. I always like to point to something called the 7 points of posture. And so it's just setting yourself up properly. And so if you're sitting in a chair, which most people do, some people choose to sit on a cushion on the ground, but most especially people that are just getting going, they'll sit on a chair, and you just keep your feet, have your feet firmly planted on the ground apart. And then you put your hands and rest them gently on your legs, and your posture is upright, and it's not too rigid or not too soft. So it's sort of in a dignified manner.
Yeah.
And then you bring your chin down slightly, and then you look ahead maybe 2 to 4 feet, and you can either have a fuzzy sort of gaze, or you can close your eyes, and that's what I choose to do, and many people do. And then you just bring your attention to your breath, and you're breathing in normally and just following the path of your breath in and out, again, just normally. And while you sit there, you'll start to notice that your mind will start wandering, and just recognizing first that that's normal, so you're not doing it wrong. That's the natural state of your mind, and so you're not trying to clear your mind here. What you'll work on is recognizing your thoughts, and when you're recognizing them, doing that without judgment, and letting that be an indicator to come back to your breath. So you've recognized, I'm thinking, no judgment, doesn't matter what I'm thinking about, and now let me come back to my breath and just focus in, breathing in normally, following the path of your breath. And that's basically it. When you're coming back to your breath, you're coming back to the present moment, fully aware of where you are at this moment, and embracing that and having a lot of gratitude for it. And then, of course, your mind wanders off again, and that's the majority of what's happening. Once you're completed, you simply open your eyes and reorient yourself with your surroundings, and give yourself a little bit of gratitude for taking a minute or 2 or 10 or 20 or whatever you did to just slow down, sit down, and come to the present moment.
It's great. I find myself, thanks for that, Rob. That was awesome. It's amazing how just breath can get you out of fight or flight and just get you kind of back into your body. I remember when I learned how to meditate, I was 27, and I was going to a holistic chiropractor in Chicago, Darren Weissman, and he taught me how to meditate. And for months, just trying to meditate for 1 minute was difficult. It was painful, right? And so I just wanted to, share with everybody, just be patient with yourself, because I think that's important. I want to talk a little bit about business, but before we do, I just want to talk about gratitude. I think, I think this is an environment where, at least I know I can speak for myself and many people that I'm talking to. I find myself more grateful for so many things. I could list, 100 things I'm telling myself I'm grateful for a day. And I think getting to gratitude is a good way to, even if you're not going to meditate, just thinking about what you're grateful for is a great way to get present.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean,
Yeah.
It's something that we talk a lot about at my company at imageOne, and we always ask people, did you take some time to express some sort of gratitude today? Just whether it's just be in your head, or you wrote something down, or there's different tools like apps or whatever the case might be. And oftentimes people pause and they say, "Oh no, I didn't do that." And they realize as they're going through it that there's really nothing to it. It's like it's a 3-second exercise,
Right.
and it's so simple. So if you want to jot something down on your notebook, on your calendar notes, or just a little reminder, because to your point about what you're doing, which I compliment you for being diligent about that. It's really amazing, especially when we see all the news, and it's most of it isn't very good when you read it, and it's not uplifting for the most part. So it's a really great exercise now, more than ever, to think of 1, 2, 3 things that you're really grateful for. It puts everything in perspective.
Everything. Yeah. Let's talk about you. You're the CEO of a business, right? And what I love about your company, and how you run it and Joel lead it, you really are a company where your values are not just on the wall, you live them. I mean, you live them. And I think right now a lot of companies are having an easy time, living them, and their people feel it. And some companies realize, wait, the values are on the wall, but now that Corona's hit, they're not living them, and the people are feeling it. So you being a CEO who lives the values, as you walk and talk through the company, and now on probably, Zoom and Microsoft Teams as you're connecting with your people. How do you live your values remotely?
Well, let me go back for a second to when this kind of really started to take shape, this crisis. And it was it was around March 11th, which I think was a Wednesday, and I have an apartment in Detroit, and I looked out the window on Thursday the 12th. On March the 11th, we got word that one of our clients, Quicken Loans, was going to be working remote as a test on Thursday and Friday of that week. And I looked out the window of my apartment, which overlooks one of their buildings, and I didn't see many people out on the streets. And that was really a weird feeling. And I remember calling Joel, my business partner, my best friend in the world, Joel Perlman, and just saying, this is going to be something different if other companies start doing this, because the streets are pretty empty here right now. It's nuts. Yeah. And as it started to unfold over the next few days for us, I remember saying to the team, this is where we're really going to know how our culture stands up. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting. And so over the past now a little over a month, we've been able to see how it has stood up. And, I think as we had to start working remote, we have something that we talk about at the company called C to the third, and simply stated, it's communicate, communicate, communicate. And so, our leadership team has been all over, just calling, Zooming, Microsoft Teaming, whatever, my texting, emailing, all of it with all the team members constantly, all of our customers, all of our advisors, our peers, our friends, our families. It's more important now to stay connected. And so we have some time that we found, because we're not moving around a lot. We're not in vehicles going from point A to point B. And so it's important to realize that, use that time wisely to stay connected within your team and just ask a lot of great questions. Yeah. What are you struggling with? What's tough right now? What's your state of mind? We'll ask questions like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your stress level? 10's like through the roof, and 1's like, I hardly even know what's happening in the world. I feel great, and just watching those numbers as they sort of roller coaster throughout the week, because what we found is some people are 4s and 5s on one day, and the next day they're 8 or 9. Yeah. I mean, it can shift that fast. And so, those are just some of the things that we're trying to do on a regular basis to stay connected with the team.
And what I love about what you're talking about is now is a time where everyone needs to not only focus on effective communication, but consistent over communicating right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is. I mean, the person you talk to at 5 o'clock, let's just say, if that's the end of the day, they're watching now 8 hours of potential news, more news when they wake up. So much has changed. They're living under one roof with their family. And so, I understand. I'm seeing the same thing, right? At 5 o'clock, somebody's a 4 out of 10. And the next morning, they're a 12 out of 10. And so, leaders today, in my opinion, like you're saying, and I agree, need to help get people grounded, put things in perspective, reframe certain things. And I think everybody just needs to know, kind of like, hey, this is what you got to just get through today, right? This is what we got to do today.
Yeah. And, starting off with the positive focus is always great. And also just acknowledging, I think, sometimes it's even more powerful just to acknowledge the emotion and allow it to be, versus the idea that you could try to say, well, things are, but this or but that, and try to put the positive into it. Sometimes that isn't needed. Sometimes just being able to release. I'll speak for myself. I've had roller coaster moments like anybody else. And so I'm just trying to be very aware of when that's happening and embracing it, and just saying, this is all here to serve me, and just allow it to be and let it get out. And, hours, minutes, or a day later, I might feel completely different. So just allowing that to be with your team. You mentioned something else about the over communication. I think that's really important. We've put a real focus on people being connected, informed, and cared for. And so those are three things that we've sort of put our stake in the ground, and we're making sure that we're all over those three things. And so informed is keeping everybody in this remote sort of environment up to date on exactly what's happening on a regular basis. When a week goes by, it seems like it's a month. I mean, I talk to people and they're like, yeah, it's so
right now, right?
And so it's increasing the rhythms. Get the all hands, get everyone together, whether it's your team or if you're in a if you're running a company, get the whole team on. We're doing it 2 times a week, but we ask the team, what do they want? How often do you want to hear? And it was variant. So we have an all hands on Wednesday, which is optional, and we found that a little over half the team's coming there. On Friday, it's an all hands, and that is a requirement that everyone's together. And so those are our pulses. The leadership team, it's every single day in the morning. We're touching base and preparing ourselves for the day. And then the connected part, which is, what a unique time to do some really fun stuff. We're doing social, 15-minute social breaks where somebody takes a topic like wine pairing, or somebody did a talk about zebras, and bar trivia. We did the newlywed game. There was a couple that eloped, sort of, got married during this whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's just levity, as leaders, kind of being a little bit outside our comfort zones, maybe doing some goofy stuff, posting that on any internal mechanisms that you have. We use something called Yammer. It's kind of like, a Facebook thread or whatnot, and, posting videos or just funny stuff, and just trying to keep things light, but also posting important stuff, updates on COVID policies and safety and health and things of that nature. So, just keeping everybody informed and light and connected and cared for, I think, are really important.
I love that. I've never seen so many TikToks from your generations these last couple of weeks. It's hilarious.
I know. It's great.
But you have to make time for fun. And one thing I just want to add, and I find that a lot of companies are really doing this. I know I'm doing a lot of it with companies, is working with them on these workshops of making sure that your people are taking care of themselves, really, that they are really nurturing themselves, the routine, whether it's a workout, walking, meditation. I mean, really pushing self-care during this time. I mean, this is a time where we gotta, nurture ourselves, which most people just kind of always put themselves on hold. But I think that is, really important. And then just getting in your own routine. It's hard. I mean, with the kids and everybody under one roof, you gotta kind of do your best to stick to a routine.
Yeah, it's so true. We talk about at imageOne, we talk about the simple 6. And these are 6 things that we kind of collaboratively came up with internally, that they were kind of like the things that we all know and say we always want to do a better job with that. But for some reason, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
And so we start with the foundation of a solid mindfulness and meditation practice. And the reason that's the foundation is it helps us bring awareness to the rest of them. Yeah. And the rest of them being sleep, nutrition, movement, connection, and gratitude.
Yeah.
And so by having the awareness of those things through our mindfulness and meditation practices, especially during this time, because we can take the time to maybe focus a little bit better. It's a little bit slower, and so many of us aren't eating out as much, so we can focus on, more maybe the better way of eating,
right.
Sleeping, just really the routine that you talked about, I think is really important. Now could be a great time to, try to get on a different kind of routine than we were used to. Movement, really for some tough, I know many people in the company and outside the company that, the gym was super important to them, or the yoga studio, or Orange Theory, things like that. And so how can you incorporate those things? There's so many great online streaming things now, like, wow, that's unbelievable. I'm wondering if there's going to be a whole new market now for this. But also, a good solid brisk walk is always valuable. Get out in the air, get yourself out there, even if it's cold, bundle up if you're in our part of the world or whatever. This stuff with Zoom and FaceTime, if people aren't doing it already, what a unique way to connect with friends and family like we never have before. I've heard so many stories about happy hours and things of that nature. And I know my family, we've got all the kids and got my father on the Zoom, and, having him sit back like, what's this all about? It was great. It was so fun. And we would have never done that.
Right.
I've heard Seder's, people were doing that over Zoom that they would have.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did.
And I just heard so much love around that. Yeah. So amazing. And Easter, same thing, people Zooming in and doing things in this different way, and, just really cool. And like you said earlier, gratitude.
I think I love everything you just said. I think, of course, my heart goes out to everybody affected by COVID, and prayers, lots of love. But I think we're all going to come out of this with a much higher level of consciousness, a much higher level of kindness, a much higher level of getting back to the basics of the importance of our own personal values as well. And I know for myself, my wife and I, we have 2 teenagers. We've been trying to kind of get family dinners consistently, and it's hard with activities and this. And we've done it, and now it's just kind of just getting back to some roots has been, isn't it? It's been really nice. Yeah.
I wondered if we got sent a lesson in some way, and I think others are thinking that as well. Yeah. But what I thought was interesting is that wherever this lesson was coming from, and whoever or however it was being maestroed, if it was in some way, what happened was they said, first and foremost, we need to ensure this way of connecting with people. So we'll have this internet connection that'll be strong enough that can handle the masses of amounts of people that will need it. And then we'll make sure that there's platforms where people can see each other, because they'll go nuts if they can't see each other. Right. And so somehow there was this ability for us to connect in the way that we're doing, through video, through these, pipes and wires or whatever, however it all works. And it's actually unbelievable. It blows my mind that this happened at this time, where we could all kind of stay connected in this really unique way when we can't be together.
Right. But we can still feel connected. No,
we can still feel connected.
I agree.
So many of us.
Yeah. Amen to all of that. In closing, I want to be conscious of your time. I know, what's 2 questions for you. What's one piece of wisdom that you would give somebody right now?
Use this time to develop, some of these new habits that you've been thinking a lot about over the years, and just have been too busy, or haven't had the opportunity to slow down. I mean, we've all been given this gift. This is all a gift, despite all the hardships that many are going through, and there's a lot of it. But use it in a positive and way that will lift you up. And so whatever that means to you, maybe jot that down and read it every day, and think about it and take action on it.
That's good. And then what's a favorite book that you've read recently?
Oh, I am actually reading a book by a local author, Josh Linkner. It's an old school book, Disciplined Dreaming. And I'm really trying to get my brain in a creative state right now.
Yeah.
And then the other book that I'm reading at the same time is The Future is Faster Than You Think by Peter Diamandis. And I'm reading that to keep a positivity about what's possible and where this world is going.
Oh, that sounds great. That's great. All right, good. Well, Rob Dube, I can't thank you enough. Tell people where they can buy
Thank
your
you,
book
John.
and how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. DoNothingBook.com, and it's all there. So that get a hold of me and anything you need, it's all there.
Good. And imageOne?
imageOne is imageoneway.com. And we're here for when you return back to work. Let's get you prepared with all your print needs, your print devices, the multifunction printers, and all the office printing that you do. We'll be ready for you.
Awesome. All right, good. Man, you were great. I appreciate it. Thanks for
I
taking time.
appreciate you, John. Thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, please, of course. It's going to have a great, there's going to get, we're going to put this on iTunes, and, it's going to have a ripple effect for so many people right now. So
Cool.
Thanks for the gifts that you shared today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
I
man.
appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay.
Bye,
Take care. See ya.
Yeah.